So much for joining us today.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah. Senator, good to have you back in the building. Good to see you. Hope everybody's doing well. So Joe Biden told governors on Friday at the White House that lawmakers in the House, and this is a quote, he said they need to grow a spine when asked about what they're going to do with the bill that was passed in the Senate. I've asked Senator Lankford this question before, but why not make some changes to that bill that passed in the Senate, work with Speaker Mike Johnson, and then vote on this again and get it passed?
Well, that would take a spine from the White House. This is the most spineless president we've ever had, the worst leadership I've ever seen from a person in this type of position. There are changes that could be made to the policy, simple policy changes. But again, this president does not want to fix the problem. He wants these 10 million people crossing the border illegally. He thinks that's going to be votes for the Democrat Party in the future.
So you're saying that the Senate won't do anything on the Democratic side because Joe Biden won't let them. So if Mike Johnson said, listen, if you tweak this, change that, delete that, and then vote again, it'll do well in the House. You're saying that Chuck Schumer won't let that happen?
It's a facade. It's a charade. Joe Biden does not want to fix this problem, but here's his admission to guilt. All along, he's now saying, I could have fixed the problem. He could have fixed this problem months ago. He could say, this is an emergency. He could stop this problem yesterday if he wanted. This is a huge admission of guilt on the president, and the American people are going to hold him accountable come November.
Yeah, the day he went into office, he reversed so many of those things that former President Trump did, and yet now he's blaming Republicans. And then we have this sad story about that student in Georgia who was killed by a Venezuelan who was here illegally, who was arrested in New York City. Yeah. They let him go. I mean, this is happening time and time again.
So this is one of 200,000 Venezuelans that Joe Biden paroled. 200,000 Venezuelans. He's returned a whole 1,000 of them, and now Venezuela is thumbing their nose at us and saying no more. So who else is out there? Again, 2 million gotaways. This young lady, beautiful young lady, a nursing student near and dear to my heart, my wife a nurse, a physician myself. This lady has such a wonderful future. But in addition to her, 300 Americans died from fentanyl poisoning yesterday. 300 are going to die today as well. That's why every state is now a border state.
Did you vote for that Senate border bill? I know 29 Republicans were in favor of it. Were you one of that number?
Absolutely not. No,
okay.
There's no way.
And there was nothing in that bill that you liked?
Well, I'm sure there was. The support for Israel, of course, is something that I would get behind.
Right.
Support
no, just as it relates to the border.
Yeah. Oh, no. There's nothing. The border bill actually made the situation worse at the end of the day. It did nothing to change asylum or parole.
And the executive action that we've heard about now for the last 10 days. So we keep hearing Biden's going to do something. He hasn't done anything.
That's consistent with
Is
Joe
that
Biden's.
Another facade?
It is absolutely a facade, a charade. His poll numbers are low enough, maybe he'll do something. But to Allison's point, he overturned 90 executive orders, reversed what President Trump had in place. We went from less than 1,000 to 10,000 people crossing our border every day.
Do you think he may do something at the State of the Union that'll be his platform to look like he's the hero, and yet we're having people die every single day from illegal migrants, from fentanyl poisoning, from trafficking?
I do think that's his moment. He's going to try to shine. We'll see if he can stay awake that late that night and deliver something like that. But I assume that's when he's going to show us what he's going to do. But meanwhile, again, 300 Americans dying every day from fentanyl poisoning, and human trafficking is on the rise right now as well. So keep your eyes on that.
Yeah, you're a doctor. How concerned are you about what we're seeing? And forget about the Robert Hur report, just what we're seeing with our own eyes from this president. Do you think he's the nominee come November 5th for the Democrats?
Gosh, I think there's always a chance of a major health problem between now and then for him. I'm very concerned about his health, both his physical health and his cognitive health, obviously on the decline as well. I assume he's going to be until proven otherwise.
Yeah, we're seeing more reporting from seemingly friendly media questioning this. NBC, could Democrats replace Joe Biden as their nominee? The Boston Globe, why Joe Biden shouldn't run again? Newsweek, who could replace Joe Biden? And then Newsweek gave 4 possible candidates. So it seems like the media, and it started with David Ignatius back in September with that piece in the Post, but it seems like the media has all of a sudden been given the green light to start questioning Joe Biden's age and cognitive decline.
Yeah, we'll see what happens at the Democrat National Convention. I don't recall the exact month of that, but certainly if the president withdrew and opened up his delegates, released them, I believe is the term that they use, obviously anything could happen there.
Yeah, the RNC's in July, the DNC I think happens a month later in August. We're hearing that this week the Senate impeachment trial of Alejandro Mayorkas could take place. Chuck Schumer says it could start this week and end this week. How do you expect this all to play out?
I think that the last thing that Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden want is this playing itself out publicly. I expect them to try to table it. They do not want this to be the lead story on the news tonight. If he's actually having an impeachment hearing, they'll have to televise that to some extent. So they'll do everything they can to push this to the side as quickly as they can.
Yeah, to bury it. So something we're not hearing about, but it could happen, is a potential government shutdown. Talk to us more about that. Do you see that happening?
Well, listen, what the president wants and what Chuck Schumer wants is to use this threat of a government shutdown to offer an omnibus. If they bring all the 12 bills together, then Chuck Schumer gets to write the bill and figure out where the money's going. So they're going to use this threat of a government shutdown to get what they want, as well as their Ukraine funding. You wait and see. At the end of the day, they're going to throw Ukraine funding onto the biggest omnibus bill we've ever seen. And who's hurt is Americans. This is why I'm encouraging Speaker Johnson to consider, if we have a continuing resolution, we go back to this current year's budget and a 1% cut. It'll save Americans $100 billion. It's not exactly what I want, but it's the best deal we can get on the table.
Senator, over the weekend, I think people heard a lot about the state of Alabama, IVF, and in vitro. You are an OBGYN, if I'm not mistaken. Can you take our audience through what is going on right now in the state of Alabama?
Well, the Supreme Court has declared that the frozen embryos are people. But what I would just encourage everyone to remember is that Republicans are the pro-family party. We believe in families. Is there anything more pro-family than helping families have babies? Today in America, 200 wonderful children are going to be delivered from in vitro fertilization. 2% of America's population has been delivered via in vitro fertilization the past 20 or 30 years. This is a beautiful thing. We support it. We're going to get behind it. What the Dobbs decision did is put the decisions back to we the people, back at the state level, and I have confidence that the state legislature can fix this issue.
And just about 10 seconds, do you expect any appetite from your colleagues on the other side of the aisle when it comes to impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas? Because all it would take is a few. You got to get to 60.
Yeah, they don't want to take this vote. So Schumer's going to do everything he can to bury it. That's his plan right now, because it'll be a tough vote for those people in the purple state who are for election.
Exactly. And this is an issue that could decide the next election. So going to put a lot of people in a tough spot. Senator, we always cover a lot of ground. Great having you in house.
It's a rapid fire with you.
My goodness, yeah. Kansas Senator Roger Marshall, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Lots more to go this morning.